Hot summer days can do more damage to your pantry than you realize. While you're outside enjoying the sunshine, the inside of your pantry might be cooking your canned goods, spoiling your grains, and cutting months off of your carefully stocked food supply. Summer can quietly destroy your pantry. While we're focused on beach trips and barbecues and sunshine, right? Our carefully stored food might be slowly spoiling in the background. Today, I'm going to share how heat affects pantry food, what mistakes to avoid, real-life examples of pantry fails, and the exact steps you can take to protect your investment. Think of this episode as a heat shield for your pantry. By the end of this episode, you'll know the warning signs of heat damage, how to store smart, and some simple fixes that you can do this week. Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Sutton, and I believe that true peace of mind starts right here in the heart of your home. We buy insurance for our cars, our homes, our health. We plan for retirement and save for a rainy day. But what about the one place we turn to for nourishment and comfort? Our kitchen, our pantry. This isn't about being afraid or waiting for the worst. It's about being empowered. It's about building a foundation of food security so that no matter what comes your way, a job loss, a snowstorm, or a busy week, you can always provide for the ones you love. On my new podcast, Pantry Preparedness, I share simple, actionable strategies for building a smart, resilient pantry. I'll walk you through how to choose the right items, store them effectively, and turn a simple food reserve into a source of savings and security. A well-stocked pantry isn't just about food, it's about freedom. The freedom from worry and the freedom to feel confident and secure knowing that your family is cared for. Subscribe to Pantry Preparedness by Lisa Sutton wherever you listen to podcasts. Start building your best insurance plan today. Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of Pantry Preparedness. I am really excited about this new venture and I hope that you enjoy it as much as I do. First, we're going to talk about why heat destroys food. It's actually pretty simple and I hope that this clears it up for you. Food lasts longest when stored in cool, dark, dry places. I say it all the time, cool, dark, and dry, cool, dark, and dry. Heat accelerates spoilage. For every 10 degrees Fahrenheit increase above 70 degrees Fahrenheit, shelf life is cut nearly in half. Heat speeds up chemical reactions. Fats go rancid, proteins break down, right? And when you look at things like moisture plus heat, it's the perfect storm for mold and bugs. Ew, and nobody wants them in there, okay? Shelf life charts assume cool conditions, which is 50 degrees Fahrenheit to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Once temps climb into the 80s and 90, the shelf life drops drastically. So let's take this as an example. If you take flour and you store it in a 60 degree Fahrenheit basement, it will last for a year. If you take that same flour and store it in a 90 degree Fahrenheit garage, you'll get 3 months before it gets that rancid smell. So that's how drastically it impacts it. A bag of rice rated for 20 years in cool storage may last just 5 to 7 years in a hot garage. So unless you're looking to waste a lot of money and a lot of time, putting it in the garage is not a good spot. Some of the things you don't want to do is you don't want to assume that pantry stable means indestructible. They are not the same thing at all. Pantry stable, shelf stable, right? That just means that under the right conditions, it will last you, but it does not mean that it's indestructible. So some real easy solutions to look at are like some really inexpensive thermometers in your pantry, and track the lows and the highs for awareness. Move foods to the coolest part of your home. If you have a basement, it's the basement. If it's under the bed or interior closets, or if you're like me and you have an entire spare room that nobody's using, you can easily turn that into a pantry. The foods that are most affected by summer heat, let's look at canned goods, okay? And for the most part, we're talking about commercially canned, but this is also applicable for home canned. Risk of bulging, leaking, or a metallic taste when they get overheated, that's not good. Oils and nut butters will go rancid much quicker in hot temperatures, so you want to pay attention to that. Powdered milk and protein powders, they will clump, just gross, and lose nutrients. So that makes it not worth doing, right? And then, of course, the ever lovable, we must have it, chocolate or candy or baking chips. When it gets too hot, they can melt and re-solidify, ruining their quality, ruining their usefulness. Because if you're looking for baking chips and you get a baking clump, it's going to come out completely different in your recipe, right? Bulging or rusting cans, that's spoiled food right there. And then high heat equals faster vitamin loss. Like say vitamin C in canned fruit. It diminishes much quicker when they are stored in a high heat area. So some of the solutions to look at is store your oils and your chocolates, right? And definitely your nuts, that kind of thing, in a refrigerator or a freezer if possible. That will keep them at a regulated temperature and definitely cooler. Rotate these items more frequently during hot summer months. Very important. Aim to use within 6 to 12 months. Now, if you have, air conditioning or central air, then, that's okay. And we're not talking about, one day here or one day there. This is kind of an extended period kind of thing, because a question that I get asked a lot is, what if I don't have central air and I live in, say, Arizona where it is 100 degrees, And all that means is that you can still stock a pantry. You just can't expect it to last as long as, say, I do, where it's in a regulated space around 70, 75 degrees. So you need to kind of pick your battles and adjust depending on your location. Just because you don't have air conditioning does not mean you cannot have a pantry. It's still completely something that you can do. When you're looking at grains and flours, heat plus humidity equals pantry moths, weevils, and mold. And I don't know about you guys, but if you've ever battled pantry moths, you know how much fun that is not, okay? It takes a while to make sure you get everybody out of there. So a simple solution for those is to freeze flour or rice for a couple of days before storing it in airtight containers. I'm not a big fan of doing it that way because I feel like it introduces moisture. But if I take that same flour or wheat or rice or pasta, literally anything that comes in a box or a bag from the grocery store that's a dry good, and I put them into an airtight container with an oxygen absorber, then I know that lack of oxygen will prevent anything from hatching and invading the rest of my pantry. So that's how I do it. A lot of people don't have extra room in their freezers to store all kinds of stuff, for 2 or 3 days. Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers are another great asset to your pantry, definitely. And they work the same as, say, a glass jar, except you cannot break a Mylar bag the way that you can break a glass jar. Another thing is oil and nut butters, because rancidity risks skyrocket above 75 degrees. So if you really love peanut butter, like I really love peanut butter, right? You want to have some backed up on your shelf. But if you're in a really warm place, that's probably not your best idea. You definitely want to do the smell test, okay? Because rancid oils smell like paint or crayons. That's the easiest way to explain it. So a simple solution with regard to oil and nut butters is store small bottles in a cool area, freeze extra nut butters to double their shelf life if you've got room. It's an option if you have the freezer space but not a cool area otherwise to put them. Another thing is things like powders, okay? All kinds of powders. Milk, protein powder, drink mixes. If they get hot, they clump, they lose the nutrients, that they had, and they can have an unpleasant taste. It can taste wrong. So a solution for those is just like anything else, vacuum seal powders in mason jars with oxygen absorbers. Use desiccant packets for moisture control, and that will help you extend the shelf life, you know. Sugars and sweeteners. Honey, believe it or not, crystallizes faster in heat. Syrups ferment and sugar hardens. So they don't all react the same. And I think that's something that, you know, a lot of people don't know right off the top of their head. I never understood how honey reacted to different temperatures. I knew it crystallized. I always thought it was due to age, but no, it's due to heat. So it crystallizes faster in the heat. Very, very interesting little fact there. Honey crystallizes faster in heat, syrups ferment, and sugar hardens. So one of the solutions that you can do is to store sugar in airtight buckets. Put moisture absorbers like desiccant packs. Do not put oxygen absorbers because it will turn your sugar into a brick. So unless you want to try to chip out a cup of sugar for whatever recipe you're doing instead of just scooping it, you really want to make sure that you're using desiccant packs in with your sugar. You can warm crystallized honey in hot water. You just take that jar and you set it down into a pot, not a pot, but a pot or a bowl of hot water, and it will decrystallize, you know, the honey. Snacks and candy, because snacks and candy are life, right? Chocolate and protein bars melt and they re-solidify into gritty messes. Have you ever had chocolate that did that, where it was gritty after, you know, you got to it? So the easy way to handle this is to store it in a cooler or a fridge. Buy smaller amounts more often, which is not my favorite suggestion, but you know, depending on where you live, that might be the best option. Definitely pay attention to where you put it in your pantry because heat rises. So you should put your chocolate and your candy on the lower shelves where theoretically it is cooler. Now we're going to talk a little bit about hidden heat sources, some things that you may not know where that heat is coming from. One of them is exterior walls. Even shaded ones can heat up. So I know that my living room walls are on the south end of the house, and that is where it beats down the sun the most. There's not trees out front, you know, and so that is going to heat up the quickest. So I don't want anything there. Depending on where you live and the conditions that you're in and the type of house that you're in, because that matters also. You know, pay attention to how warm it gets on your exterior walls. You may have to factor that in. Definitely your appliances play a big role. So your fridge or your stove or your dryer, these are not great places to put your pantry storage next to because they do emit heat. It's, you know, the whole electricity and the motor and all of that fun stuff. Now, sunlight leaks. Fun fact for the day, one window can heat the entire space. One window. So definitely go out of your way to make sure that you are getting those covered up, right? What not to do is don't build pantry shelves against the dryer wall. Don't keep food near attic stairwells. Yeah, because the heat's going that way too. Keep your food away from windows, ovens, dryers, exterior walls, and definitely use the lowest shelves because heat rises. Some solutions that you can do is to line shelves with a foam board because that can provide like an insulation from it hitting. Use reflective film on windows. Love it a lot. Or the insulation board. Also, you can cut that up and put that in those windows if you don't open them. Install blackout curtains over pantry doors and windows. They help a lot. They are amazing. Whoever invented them deserves some kind of big prize. Foam board, cardboard, and curtains can shield your pantry from all kinds of heat sources. So that is what you want to look at, and depending on your budget, use them where applicable. Packaging is another thing to factor in. Repackage bulk grains or flour into Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. Now, I'm not a big fan of commercially ground flour lasting for years and years and years, But at the best case, approximately 2 years in a cool, dark, and dry place, it should last for you. If you want to go to the extent of putting that into a Mylar bag, that's great. I put it straight into a bucket and use it that way because I rotate through quite a bit of commercially ground flour when I bake for other people. So I don't worry about long term, and I make sure the bucket seals so that nothing can get in there. It's a system that works. If you have nuts or coffee or dehydrated foods, you definitely want to make sure that those are in airtight containers. The nuts should go into the freezer because that is where it will stop any possibility of them going rancid. All kinds of nuts will go rancid if they sit on the shelf. Even if they're in perfectly good 50 to 70 degree Fahrenheit temperatures, they still will go rancid after 6 months, 7, 8 months on the shelf because of the natural oil in them. So the best place to put them is into your freezer, but vacuum seal them. They're really good. Coffee, dehydrated foods, definitely airtight containers that are vacuum sealed, and they will last you a really long time. Another solution is adopting a first in, first out approach. What you buy first gets used first. That's the easiest way to explain it, okay? And that way you are making sure that you are using the oldest product first. And some people will tell me, well, but I got that at a really great price, and so I don't want to use it because I'll never be able to restock it at that really great price. And this is where I have to break the bad news to you. If you bought it at a really great price yesterday, today it's a higher price. You eat the stuff that you bought at the really great price yesterday, and then you backfill with today's prices because tomorrow's prices are going to be more than today's prices. So no matter what, you will eat at the best price available and for much longer than anybody else you know. Because while everybody else is paying $15 a pound for ground beef or whatever, right? You are still paying $5 or $10, depending on your first in, first out system. You are always eating for a lower price than anybody else you know by using the first in, first out system. Let's talk about some real pantry problems. And of course, I've got some fixes for you too. So problem, bottled water in the garage. That's a big problem. That's a really big problem. Heat breaks down plastic and chemicals leach into the water. So that's kind of like a deal breaker, you know, where I'm concerned. And because the temperature in there is completely unregulated, not good. So if you have a basement, store it in the basement or rotate it every 6 months, but store it someplace in your main home. Any place that you can where it's not 90 degrees. If it has to be 90 degrees, keep it out of the direct light. But in a garage is still not good because in your garage, my bet is there is some kind of chemical or fuel or any number of other things that really should not be anywhere near anything that you ingest. So garages, not good. Bulk rice in bags. Pests and spoilage in hot environments. That's what they are. They are walking hotels with pests and spoilage, okay? So the easy fix is to recant your bulk rice or your beans or anything else into Mylar with oxygen absorbers and then put the Mylar bags into a food grade bucket. And you have a double layer of insurance to make sure that nothing can get to them and they won't go bad. They won't get moldy, they won't get damp, and they will definitely save you money moving forward. So problem number 3 is rusty cans on a pantry floor. Not good, because heat plus humidity plus concrete equals rust. And you take away any of those if you take away the heat and you've got humidity in concrete, it's still the same thing, or heat in concrete, or humidity and heat, you're still going to get rust. So any of those components at some point will rust your cans. Keep them off the floor. Elevate with shelves, cardboard, or wood planks. And the same goes for your bottled water. You definitely want to have something between the concrete floor and your food. Problem number 4 is melted stockpiled chocolate, which is just about heartbreaking, okay? So the easy fix, like we said before, was to freeze the extras. Store only a small rotation in summer. Stock up on it, in the fall before the holiday season when you use it the most. But do what you can to make sure that you're keeping it cool and dark, because otherwise you've got a chocolate clump instead of chocolate chips. Now, this is a problem that at one point or another pretty much everybody runs into, but a bug infestation. So heat accelerates hatching. So if you get weevils or if you get pantry moths and it's hot, it's only going to be exacerbated by the heat. So you want to freeze dry goods before storing them. Some people put a bay leaf as a deterrent. I have never found that to be remarkably effective. I personally go with the act of decanting everything into airtight containers and putting in an oxygen absorber. If you remove the oxygen, nothing does nothing, and you're good. And nothing can get into it, so you're good. I worry about freezing things because then you're introducing moisture. I will not freeze my rice because then I introduce moisture. And then once I introduce that moisture, I have to pull it out, let it completely dry out on my counter for a few days, hope it's not humid, okay? And then recant it. And to me, that's just a lot of extra time that I don't need to do. So I highly recommend recanting it, oxygen absorbers, sealing it, you're good. Next is not checking your pantry temperatures. Did you even know that was on the radar? I know, right? But if you don't know what the temperatures are, then you can't make the necessary adjustments. Assuming normally means that we're wrong, either in a good way or a bad way. It really depends on what you find out. If you have surprises like spoiled oil or bloated cans or any of the other things that we've mentioned, that's a problem in your pantry. So if you take one of those $5 indoor thermometers, right, and put it in your pantry, or grab a couple and put one high, put one low, and put one in the middle, and see what the difference is. Go in once a week and check, or go in once a day and check and record and see what the difference is depending on the temperature outside. It may surprise you the difference that you run across. You may be surprised, not necessarily in a good way, on the results. Heat proofing your pantry, we're going to talk about some hacks here, okay? Because we're all about solutions. I love having solutions. Placement tricks. Where do I put the food? Store the food under the beds. Store it in closets. Store it in basements. Store it in bookshelves with a curtain over the front of it. There's all kinds of things. You can use DIY insulation. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Find old blankets, coolers, or foam board to insulate shelves. Absolutely, those are options that you can use to help insulate your pantry. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Moisture management, super important. So silica gel packs, desiccants, or even chalk sticks. You can find chalk sticks will help moisture management. And again, rotation. Summer rotation should be more aggressive than your winter rotation because heat plays such a factor. And if you cannot control the heat in your pantry, then you have to have an aggressive rotation system set up. Now, as an example, a listener stored bulk beans inside of a cooler with a thermometer inside. Temps stayed 15 degrees cooler than the garage. Yeah, so give it a try. And a lot of times you can find coolers at garage sales. I love it. Phil normally has to tell me to leave it there, Now, hot weather pantry menu ideas, because you may not feel like having a whole bunch of cooking to do or anything else, but you can hit that pantry up and you can do tuna salad on crackers, or, shelf-stable hummus with a pita, or a cold pasta salad with canned chicken and veggies. I mean, that's why our pantry is so great, okay? Definitely take a look at being able to use those kind of things. Practical action plan, because it's homework time, my friends. It's homework time. You didn't think you were going to get out of this unscathed, right? So this week, I have a task for you because I think that you will be surprised, hopefully pleasantly, but I hope that you will be surprised by what you find out. So this week, take your pantry's temperature. Go in there at the same time every day. What's the hottest hour of the day that you're home? If you're home at 3 o'clock, then go take your pantry's temperature every day this week. If you don't get home until 6, take it then. And watch how it changes. Record the outside temperature and then record your pantry temperature and see what the difference is every day for a week. I think you'll learn a lot, and I think it will be very helpful for determining how to lay out your pantry or how to relay out your pantry, okay? Definitely then relocate the most heat-sensitive items. So if you take your pantry's temperature and you go, wow, it's much warmer up there than I thought it was, then it's a great time to take those baking chips or that chocolate or that heat-sensitive stuff and move it down to a lower shelf, because heat rises, and so the lower it is, the cooler it is. You definitely want to take some time and repackage your grains and your flours and all of that fun stuff into Mylar or jars. You can do it. Add insulation or shading where needed. It's really just that simple. Cardboard or blankets or coolers that you have sitting around doing nothing are a great way to insulate your highest at-risk items. And definitely create a summer rotation list for high-risk foods. We still have some weeks left here before summer's over, right? So the budget tip for the day is to use what you have. Coolers, cardboard, old blankets for insulation. You can do it and you don't have to spend a dime because it's already there. The recap. We're gonna just do it down and dirty and quick for you. Heat is your pantry's #1 enemy. But placement, insulation, packaging, and rotation will keep your food safe, and that's what this is all about. So let me know in the show notes down below in the comments section, what is the biggest pantry fail you've had in the summer heat? Send me your stories. I can't wait to hear them, because we all learn, and that is the way we all learn, and without having to actually go through it all ourselves, right? So again, the challenge is to check your pantry's temperature this week. Make one small adjustment to protect your food, whether that's moving the cans, repackaging the flour, insulating the shelf. Pick one thing and go for it. Thank you for joining us for the first episode of Pantry Preparedness. Check out the links in the show notes below, and that will take you to all kinds of great information for Mylar bags or vacuum sealers or oxygen absorbers or our Pantry Preparedness book, because it is the best insurance that money can buy. Until next time, everybody, thanks for joining me, and we will see you next week. Be safe, my friends. Keep stacking it to the rafters.